Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Hi.
This is the
Hi.
very first ever 32 and 32 live. We're excited. This is a little different. We're used to a platform where we can make mistakes, but we're not. Obviously, we're not new to being live. So this is going to be a fun one. We're looking forward to it.
Yep.
I am Nate.
I am Jen.
And we are the 32 and 32 Fantasy Football Podcast, and that is our cat Beckett, who will be interjecting here and there throughout the show.
Yep.
Not a whole lot we can do about that, unfortunately. But hey, here we are, ready to talk some football. We've got all 14 matchups that are still remaining after that awesome Thursday night game last night. At least the fourth quarter was great. Yeah, I think we're ready to go.
I think so. Let's get started so we aren't taking up too much time.
Beautiful. All right. So first matchup we're talking about this week, we have got Carolina at Atlanta. I'm going to start this one off here with Carolina. Pretty simple here. Sam Darnold isn't startable. Matchup doesn't matter. Without Christian McCaffrey, he's making too many mistakes, which that leads to DJ Moore. He's serviceable. He's seeing volume. He's still the number one target. You're probably going to start him this week. Robbie Anderson, though, I mean, he's a definite bench, but I mean, at this point, is he borderline droppable?
Yeah, I mean, he's been a major disappointment this year. We all were rooting for him, and he's just been disappointing, to say the least.
Yep. So, I mean, he's a guy that if you still have him rostered for some reason, get him on your bench. Mm-hmm. Chuba Hubbard could be a solid flex this week. I don't hate the play. I think we've talked about this before. Christian McCaffrey gets hurt too often. Yeah. He's becoming a liability in fantasy. You know, they rode him hard for 3 seasons, and now he's hurt. He's played 6 games in the last 2 years. So
it's so sad. I traded him away in one of my leagues I traded CMC away in one of my leagues just because I traded him for Chuba. So hopefully Chuba does well. But to see my first round draft pick be traded away just hurt my heart. But I mean, it was the same last year. So
yeah. I mean, we're at a point of concern. And outside of that, there's nobody in this Carolina offense you're considering starting.
Right. Absolutely.
Yep.
Over to Atlanta?
Yeah, let's go over to Atlanta.
Yeah. So as we've touched on so far this season, we've seen an outstanding performance from Matt Ryan. We started out very questioning on him.
Very much so.
But you need to start him if he's on your team. He's had 12 touchdowns this season with only 4 interceptions in his last 2 games. He's eclipsed 300 yards. So he's an obvious start there. Cordarrelle Patterson should have a decent game along with Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, my God.
Yes, Kyle Pitts to the moon.
Every time he catches the ball, I'm like, what? Who is this guy? And he's had, I think I read somewhere like almost 300 yards and a touchdown in his last 2 performances.
Yep.
So he's an obvious start. And then Mike Davis has broken my heart, and he's going to be benched for a while until he can prove himself.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Mike Davis that we're seeing is that they prefer that this offense run through Cordarrelle Patterson out of the backfield because he's a more dynamic player. He's kind of that hybrid, and they don't need Mike Davis to do much, and they don't need him in the red zone, which out of Mike Davis, we need touchdowns. We're not getting that.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a concern. Fortunately, I think most people were getting him late in drafts, so you're not like extra reliant on him. Hopefully you're not extra reliant on Mike Davis. If you are, you're probably starting him this week. He has a low ceiling. He has a higher floor because you know he's going to get carries. So, All right, well, let's move on to Miami and Buffalo.
Okay. Well, so Buffalo is well rested this week coming off bye, and they're playing a 1-6 Miami team. So I'd say you can comfortably start most of the Buffalo players. We don't need to tell you to start Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. You're obviously starting them. Unfortunately, though, Dawson Knox is out. But Tommy Sweeney could be a great fill-in. He's only rostered in like 4% of leagues. So you would be able to snag him if you need to bridge the gap while Knox is out.
Yeah, and I think also we can say that probably helps out Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley. They should be in for some more red zone work this week because that's where we've seen a lot of Dawson Knox scoring a touchdown, just touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. So I really like Emmanuel Sanders this week. This is a great matchup against Miami for Buffalo. And speaking of Miami, Tua actually looked decent last week against Atlanta, but Atlanta isn't Buffalo. I'd be sitting him. We've seen a kind of resurgence from Myles Gaskin, but for me, it's hard to trust. I'm going to keep him on my bench. He's hopefully not a guy you're relying on to be in your starting lineup. So I would stay away from him this week. Jalen Waddle's still a start for me, even with Devontae Parker back, I think.
Yeah, I've loved watching Waddle break out this year.
No, he's been dynamic, and Tua is kind of starting to lean on him a little bit, which while I wouldn't start Tua, I would start Waddle here. I would also, Devontae Parker, I'm always afraid he's going to get hurt. And this season especially, he's coming back. He might be healthy. I don't know that I love Devontae Parker here. I'm probably going to bench him.
Yeah. And Mike Gesicki, he's been on a tear, so I'd start him this week.
He's looking like a wide receiver. He's finally doing what we all thought he might do this season. Yeah. So, all right. So let's move on to San Francisco and Chicago.
Yeah, the entirety of the Bears team has been mostly disappointing this season.
Thanks, Matt Nagy.
Yeah, right. Poor Justin Fields. He had a terrible week last week. I doubt he'll put up huge numbers against the Niners, so he should be on your bench unless you have to start him in a flex position or something like that. But otherwise, benching him. Khalil Herbert is a start. He's been solid. David Montgomery will not play, so Herbert is your guy to fill in for him.
Love Herbert.
Yeah, me too. Mooney could be a good option. Start him against San Francisco. I feel like he's going to get you the points we've been expecting from him. I mean, we've been expecting a lot from him, but hopefully this week. And
my concern is just Justin Fields, and that offensive line is so bad.
Me too. I know. Cole Kmet, he's been above average in his last 2 appearances, so he's a go as well, I would say.
Yep. Yes. I don't hate Cole Kmet. Jimmy Graham just hasn't been sniping that work from him. I mean, he's got a low ceiling, but he also has a higher floor than a lot of the tight ends you might roll out instead of him. I like Cole. I like Kmet this week in this matchup. Okay, now San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo. You can roll him out in a super flex spot, but I really wouldn't be putting him anywhere else. He's too mistake prone. While he's out throwing a ton of picks, he's just making bad decisions. And outside of Deebo Samuel, he doesn't have George Kittle. I mean, Ross Dwelly. I just don't love Jimmy G. And if you don't have to roll him out in Superflex, I would definitely stay away from that. So Elijah Mitchell's probably a start this week. Don't expect him to have numbers like he did last week, but he's ahead of Sermon and Hasty on the depth chart. He's going to get the majority of the carries in this backfield. Chicago's been somewhat decent against the run, though. So, I mean, don't expect a 100-yard game from him. You might get some red zone work. Hopefully he gets a touchdown, but he's not going to blow up like he did last week. Yeah. And we talked so much trash about Elijah Mitchell last week on Club Fantasy.
Yeah. Some of us more than others, but we all agreed to bench Mitchell. And now we have egg on our face. But how could we have known? But yes, I agree. Start him over Trey Sermon and Hasty for sure.
Yep. I mean, seriously, how could we have known? Deebo Samuel remains a volume play. He's getting, like I said, he's getting most of the looks from Jimmy G, which makes sense. The ghosts of Brandon Ayuk and Mohamed Sanu shouldn't even be rostered. At this point, if you, right, exactly. They don't exist. I don't know what Brandon Ayuk did to piss Kyle Shanahan off, but he did something because we were all expecting so much more from him than we're getting. And then the Bears defense is only allowing an average of 5.7 points per week to the tight end position. This is not a week to take a flyer on Ross Dwelly. It's just not.
Okay. Moving along.
Pittsburgh and Cleveland. I'm going to start here with Cleveland.
Okay.
So Baker Mayfield was cleared today
to
play. It is crazy. I'm still not starting him unless it's super flex. There's just no way. If something were to happen like pre-game and things change, which they probably won't, but if they do, Case Keenum could be a decent start. We saw what he did against Denver. He's back with Kevin Stefanski, and he's the king of crushing it in relief. Yep. Okay, so Nick Chubb, we're hoping he is back this week.
Fingers crossed.
Yep. Still no Hunt. He's still on IR, which is a bummer. Kareem Hunt's been electric when he's been on the field. This kind of makes Dearness Johnson a kind of risky flex play with some high upside if Chubb doesn't play. Or if Chubb plays. If Chubb doesn't play, his upside all of a sudden is a lot more. Donovan Peoples-Jones hasn't practiced this week. Odell Beckham and Landry have both been limited, but we're hearing this morning that they're both going to be a go on Sunday. I don't want to start any of these guys. against Pittsburgh. It just doesn't feel like a great matchup for me. And as much as you want to have these guys in your lineup, I'm staying away from it. David Njoku and Austin Hooper, they're kind of splitting the tight end reps. I mean, I really feel like you have to bench them. I just don't think you can start either one this week unless you're absolutely desperate.
Yeah, sorry. I have a cat that's just like meowing straight into my face. So trying to calm him down. Where are we? What are we doing?
This is our life. We're up to Pittsburgh.
Oh,
Time to
okay.
talk some Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Okay, so Big Ben is a start this week in 2 quarterback leagues. He's looking good in practice. If you have him, it's likely because you need him, so you're starting him. He's only rostered in 23% of sleeper leagues, which is shocking to me. So if you're in need of a quarterback, he's out there. And coming off bye, he should produce. Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, who's back from a hamstring injury, they're all starts. And Pat Freiermuth is starting to work his way into Roethlisberger's vision more and more. And he's only rostered in 21% of sleeper leagues, so he's worth looking at if you're thin at the tight end position.
Yeah, I love that call on Freiermuth. I think that he's going to see increased volume in this offense as we get deeper into the season. We're already seeing it. I love that call. Love that a lot. All right. Well, let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Detroit Lions. I will fire this one off with Detroit.
Okay.
Jared Goff, I think, is still a start in 2 QB formats this week because you probably don't have a choice if he's someone you're looking at. The interceptions are a concern, but there should be enough volume and a touchdown or 2 against Philly to at least get you some points from Goff. Philly has a solid-ish pass defense. They're ranked 10th in yards allowed. Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't see a single target last week. Like, can you believe that? That's wild.
I know. I don't know what's happening over there. It's like he didn't get the plays we thought he would last week for sure, and it's super disappointing.
It was super disappointing because I think everyone, and I know that we said start him in this game. However, Khalif Raymond looked really good. So I was pleased to see Khalif Raymond get all the work he got. DeAndre Swift got a ton of volume last week. That's going to carry over into this week. Hawkinson saw a lot of volume last week, which was great to see. I think that continues this week. I think these are all 3 guys you have to play. In the backfield, as far as running, Williams and Swift, I mean, they're pretty much an even split every week in carries. It's very similar to the situation in Denver. Difference being DeAndre Swift has that PPR upside. He's basically a wide receiver with the passing volume he's getting that happens to run the ball as well. Williams is really someone I'm probably not going to start. In an emergency, yes, I'll fire them up. The Philly run defense is giving up 27 points per game to running backs, so this could be a boom game for Williams. It's a risky play, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so then over to Philly. Let's see, Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, Jalen Reagor, Dallas Goedert, all starts this week. Wide receiver, and I'm going to mess up his name, I know it, Quez Watkins, but I've been kind of watching him lately, and he could be a sneaky pickup and play guy. The Eagles are playing the Putrid Lions this week, so every Eagles player has potential upside this week. Kenny Gainwell is a start this week, too. He's going to have a good game. Miles Sanders went out with he's on IR with an ankle injury, so this is going to be a great week for Kenny Gainwell.
Yep, I love that. All right, so let's move on to the Rams and the Houston Texans. I'll fire this one off. I'm going to start with the Rams. This is Houston. This should be a boom week for the Rams against Houston. Stafford is an obvious go. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, those are guys you're starting. Detroit, believe it or not, has a worse defense than Houston. The Rams did very well against that Detroit defense. Houston's a tick better. They're giving up less fantasy points to every position. That said, I might sit Darrell Henderson this week.
I totally disagree. I'm starting him. I think this is a great matchup for the running game, so I'm definitely starting him.
Okay. I mean, I disagree just simply based on volume from last week, but you're probably going to be right here, as we know. Tyler Higbee's continuing to see consistent volume, but it's not enough for him to be a start because he needs a touchdown. And we don't know week to week if he's going to get that red zone work, especially with Kupp and especially with Robert Woods kind of taking off now. So Van Jefferson is a dart throw here. He could get a touchdown, but you need that touchdown from him. Otherwise, he just doesn't get enough volume. That's kind of where I'm at on the Rams.
Okay. All right. So Mark Ingram was traded to New Orleans. This opens up questions as to who you should start if you have David Johnson, Philip Lindsay, Rex Burkhead. I'm kind of on the Philip Lindsay wagon. Nate, who are you starting if you have any of these 3 guys?
Well, Philip Lindsay, I feel like is going to see an uptick in volume. Obviously, all these guys are.
Yeah.
I think Lindsey does the most with that. David Johnson just
so.
is impossible to trust.
Yep.
And I don't want to roll him out. Out of these three, I'm rolling out Philip Lindsay. There could be some good PPR, like receiving work upside for Rex Burkhead, but we don't know that that's actually going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So rolling with Philip Lindsay, you heard it here. Brandon Cooks continues to be inconsistent. It has been a disappointment for the last 3 weeks, which is so frustrating. Heading to LA, I'm on the fence about whether or not I'm starting him. With Tyrod Taylor potentially returning this week, I'm probably going to start him. Davis Mills choked last week, and it reflected on everyone. If Mills is still in for Taylor, I'm benching Cooks.
Yeah, couldn't agree more here. And that's really all there is to Houston. All right, so let's move on to Tennessee and Indy. So after seeing what Tennessee did to Kansas City, I have concerns with Indy this week. So they're going to need to run the ball effectively. Jonathan Taylor's a start. Obviously a start. However, I would probably sit Carson Wentz this week if you can. I love what we've seen from him, but this Tennessee defense has gotten better and better over the season. They're closer to what we thought they were going to be. They're a good team. I think that they're going to give Wentz fits. I mean, they were getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. They're going to get pressure on Carson Wentz.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just going to happen. Because of that, I'm probably going to sit Michael Pittman this week as well. Plus, we've got T.Y. Hilton. Looks like he's going to play. I'm also benching T.Y. Hilton. Injuries remain a concern, even though he's back and healthy. The neck injury always concerns me. Zach Pascal remains touchdown dependent. And I mean, in an emergency, I feel like you can start him, but otherwise, no. And Mo Alley Cox seems to be a red zone target for Wentz. He's had some nice touchdown upside the last 3-4 weeks. I'd flex him if you need it. Stay away from him if you can, because again, he needs a touchdown.
Yeah, he definitely needs a touchdown. I would love to see a touchdown from him.
Yeah.
This game, the Tennessee and Kansas City game, was my favorite game of the week last week. I loved watching Tannehill. He put up his third best performance against the flailing Kansas City team. It was so fun to watch. That said, they're facing Indy this week, and I'm not super confident in Tannehill. If you have another option, I'd start them over him, but Tannehill could be a good super flex option if you have that slot open. Derrick Henry is an obvious start. A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are back, and they're both starts. Let's see. Anthony Ferkser is a sit for me. Ignore the projection numbers you're seeing. Michael Pruitt has been seeing more looks. So if you need a tight end, he could be a good stash. He had that crazy Derrick Henry touchdown last week. Like from Derrick Henry, I think my neck snapped when I saw that play. It was just a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, I completely agree.
That's
You've
all
got
I have on them.
Yeah, and I like the Michael Pruitt call. That's a really solid call. All right, so we're going to move on to the Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Jets. Wow, this Cincinnati team is just electric. They're so much better than I think anybody thought they were going to be this season.
Yeah.
Burrow and Chase continue to be just incredibly dynamic together. You're starting both of them. T. Higgins saw 15 targets last week, which for anyone who has T. Higgins rostered, that was really great to see and encouraging. Will it continue? It should, at least this week against the Jets.
Agreed.
That said, Tyler Boyd kind of seems to be the odd man out here. He's only got one touchdown this season. He sees volume, but it's not enough to make him really startable. I'm benching him this week. Joe Mixon, though, man, he's just been on fire, and you're going to want to start him.
Obviously.
And then for the curious case of CJ Uzomah, he just he's been really heavily involved in this offense, and he's scoring touchdowns. And this week, I love his upside against the Jets. I think he's somebody you want to start.
Yeah, for sure. We weren't hot on Uzomah last week, but he is proving his worth, especially against the Jets, like you said. He's a start. Okay, so Zach Wilson is out for the next 2 to 4 weeks. The Jets acquire Joe Flacco. We're all wacko for Flacco, but he likely won't play this week. And outside of a rare appearance, stay away from him. Even if you need a quarterback, I would not pick up Flacco and sit Mike White if you have him. And then I'm staying away from everyone else on the Jets team, minus Jamison Crowder, I guess, but that's risky because of the unknown Mike White situation or Flacco situation. It's just too unknown over there. So stay away.
Corey Davis was on the injury report yesterday. So I think Jamison Crowder could have some sneaky upside, but like you said, it's risky. And the running backs, I just don't know what to make of Ty Johnson and Michael Carter.
Yeah.
I'm with you on all of that. All right, so next up, we've got New England and the Chargers.
Okay, the Patriots looked real good last week against the Jets. So keep that in mind, keep that in perspective. Everyone had a great day. They all looked great, and that's all that's going to do is overinflate their projection numbers for this week. So keep in mind as the Patriots head to LA to face the Chargers. That said, starting Damian Harris, sitting Ramondre Stevenson for me. The Patriots will need to run the ball more against the Chargers, so Jacoby Myers is a risky start and should only be considered if you're desperate. Same with Nelson Aguilar for me. Both will get looks, but I doubt it'll be anything spectacular. And then I think Hunter Henry is a start. Johnny Smith might be a game time decision because he's been limited in practice with a shoulder injury, but Hunter Henry's been looking good.
Yeah, and I think out of these two tight ends, Hunter Henry's a play. Johnny Smith had his press conference scrapped today after he didn't participate in practice again. So the chance he plays is very slim. Plus, he's too good at blocking, and they don't use him in the passing game at this point. So I'm with you. All right. So as for the Chargers, I mean, this is a really good New England defense, but this is also a very good Los Angeles Chargers offense. Justin Herbert's a start. Mike Williams is a start. Keenan Allen is a start. They're too good not to start regardless of the defensive situation. This is one of those offenses that is going to do what they're going to do. Austin Eckler didn't participate in practice yesterday. I mean, are we concerned about that?
I mean, no. Hopefully he'll start. He's one of the best running backs out there. If he sits out, Larry Roundtree and Justin Jackson could be good pickups for 1 week while Eckler heals that hip. It's just a bummer that they're coming off of bye and he had all this time to rest and then his hip. So, I mean, Larry Roundtree sounds weird coming out of my mouth, but he might be worth a pickup if you need somebody to kind of bridge that gap this week.
Yep. I mean, I think he's going to start. I just don't. They need him. He's fairly. I mean, this is the first time he's popped up on any injury report in a few weeks, so I'm not super concerned about it either. You're starting him as long as he's in, obviously. And then Jared Cook keeps grabbing these random touchdowns. It's still not consistent, so he's still not startable. It's just frustrating when you see it. Like you said, Roundtree's going to get carries. I wouldn't necessarily start him unless you have to.
Right.
If you're spelling Eckler, but all right. So let's move on to Jacksonville and Seattle. Jacksonville's interesting because Trevor Lawrence is actually making fewer mistakes every week.
He's good.
He is looking good. He's looking
better. We'll say
better. I would say good. I'm not going to say great. And this Seattle pass defense is really weak. So this could be a really good week for Trevor Lawrence. And because of that, it's probably going to be a good week for Marvin Jones. He's seeing the most volume out of the wide receivers, which is not what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, I like him against Seattle.
I do too, and he's getting red zone looks. And he'll score. He'll probably score at least a touchdown in this game. This hurts my heart, but right now Laviska Shenault, he's just not startable. He doesn't have a touchdown. He's not getting the volume we expected, so he's a bench for me. Oh, makes me so sad.
Team Vishka for.
I still am, and it's still coming eventually. It just might not be this season. Yeah. Okay, so you're starting James Robinson.
Obviously.
Period. Jamal Agnew has come on the scene as a sneaky flex play. He's seeing a ton of volume the 2 weeks before the bye. It's going to continue in this game. He's going to see that kind of like the short route volumes. He's proved he can catch the ball down the field. He's becoming a reliable target for Trevor Lawrence. He's a sneaky flex play for me if you need it.
I'd be interested to see where he's rostered and how high. We'll look into it. Okay, over to Seattle. Can someone please tell me why Rashad Penny isn't a thing? It's so frustrating. That said, you're sitting him until he proves he can produce. DK Metcalf and Alex Collins look like they're a game time decision. Sadly, they're both nursing injuries. DJ Dallas has been underutilized this season, and with Rashad Penny being lackluster and the other injuries, he could be a sneaky play if you want to take a risk on a potential sleeper.
I like that call. I like that a lot.
Tyler Lockett is a start. He's obviously struggled since Russell Wilson went out, and with Geno Smith taking over, but the matchup is favorable against the Jags. So you're starting Lockett. Like you can't sit him.
No.
And Gerald Everett is a start only if you don't have any other options, I would say. But
Yep. He's simply not seeing the volume I think a lot of people expected when they brought him in.
Mhm.
And now with Russell Wilson out, Geno Smith just isn't looking his way. So,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I completely agree there.
Okay, moving
Uh,
along.
Yes, Tampa Bay and New Orleans.
So I'll take Tampa Bay. I feel like everyone on the Bucs squad is a start. There's not much to say here. Brady, Gronk is back, Godwin, Fournette, Evans, they're all starts. I'm excited to see if they start using Tyler Johnson this week. He's still available in 51% of sleeper leagues. We talked about him a little bit last week. He could be a good stash. AB is out, Antonio Brown is out, so make sure you move him out of your lineups.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
You know how I feel about Tyler Johnson. And I thought
Yeah.
this is a week where with AB out, Antonio Brown, we could see him get a little bit more work.
Mhm.
All right. So for New Orleans, Jameis Winston revenge game. I mean,
What? Maybe.
right. Even so, I wouldn't start him. He's still making too many boneheaded plays, even though the interception totals are low.
Mhm.
I just think you've got better options on your roster. Maybe in 2 QB formats, you could throw him out there, but I still feel like you probably have a better option than Jameis. Mark Ingram is back. He was traded from the Houston Texans this week. Doubtful he plays this week, but he's behind Alvin Kamara now, so he's
Right.
still not relevant, right?
Right.
I mean,
Agreed.
okay. And speaking of
1,000%.
Alvin, right. Speaking of Alvin Kamara, start Alvin Kamara.
Obviously.
Deontay Harris is back this week. He saw some reps in practice, paired with Marcus Callaway. Both are risky starts. They have the potential touchdown upside, but I'm benching both this week. It's not worth the risk for me, and I have better options, and you probably have better options.
Mhm.
And then we're just not seeing enough volume for Adam Troutman or Juwan Johnson to really feel confident playing him. I mean, Johnson had that one huge game beginning of the season, and since he just really, neither one of them have been relevant.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Okay, over to Washington and Denver.
Okay. I know you love the Broncos, so I'm going to start with the Washington football team.
Okay.
We both love the Broncos.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Don't start Taylor Heineke this week.
Mm.
You shouldn't be in a position where you have to, but if
I am
you
in a
are,
position there. I have to.
I may be in a position. It's going to depend on a few things. But if you are in that position, good luck and Godspeed. I mean, Denver's been terrible against the pass, against the run, against everything. So, I mean, this could be a week where Heineke, we see a little bit more upside from him. I have concerns about Antonio Gibson this week. He's still nursing that fractured shin.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that he's going to see a lot of usage. He's been limited in practice. He'll be on the field, but I think you need to sit him where you can this week because they're going to be careful with him. They don't need him aggravating the injury and then being completely out.
Mm-hmm.
That said, J.D. McKissic's going to see an uptake in volume just like he did last week with Gibson being limited.
Mm-hmm.
I think J.D. McKissic is a solid play, and he's got PPR upside because he's known more as a receiving back than a running back.
Yep.
But he's going to get both this week. So I love him, and I would really get him in your lineups. And Terry McLaurin, he's a start for me against a surprisingly weak Denver secondary that we thought was going to be much, much better than it has been.
So disappointing.
Yep. Logan Thomas is now week to week. He's still on IR. He could be activated. I think they can activate him today or tomorrow from IR. He's been practicing a little bit kind of on the sidelines. He's probably not playing this week. So I like Ricky Seals-Jones again, especially in this matchup. Denver's linebackers just haven't been great, and it's concerning. So yeah, I'd fire him up.
Okay. Speaking of that, like, could this be Denver's week? They have a 4-game losing streak, and that's got to stop. It's got to stop. I hope it's this week. Bridgewater should be benched this week if you can. He's fighting a calf injury. This is not to say that you should start Drew Lock. Bench them both. Do you hear me? Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, they're both starts if you have either of those guys. And Jerry Jeudy's back. Start him if you have him. And start Cortland Sutton. Keep an eye on Tip Patrick. Like, I don't understand why Denver doesn't use him more.
I don't know.
And start Noah Fant only if you have no other option.
Yeah.
It's too risky with Bridgewater. Like, you've got your stars in Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, so start those guys over Noah Fant.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, so let's move on. We've got 3 more games to hit in 2 minutes to get this at 32.
Okay, so I'll start with Dallas. Dak could be out this Sunday night, so he's a risky start with a calf injury. I think Dallas is being cautious, which is smart.
Yeah.
But just keep an eye on that. Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Blake Jarwin, they're all obvious starts. Dalton Schultz is a start for me. He's been phenomenal over the last 4 weeks, and Dallas is coming off a restful bye. So Dalton Schultz would be a starter. Tony Pollard is a start as well. Can he eke out a second touchdown this week? I hope so, but
Yep.
I'd say he's a little, I don't know. He's a start. He's got to be, right?
Yeah, he's got to be a start. He's seeing enough usage. He has the upside. And if you drafted him, you need to use him.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I agree with you or disagree with you here is Blake Jarwin.
Okay.
Because he is not, Dalton Schultz is getting the majority of that volume. I wouldn't start Blake Jarwin unless I literally didn't have another tight end on my roster to start. But I agree with you with Dalton Schultz.
Yeah.
My only concern is that Michael Gallup's back this week, but coming off injury, how much volume is he going to have? I mean, it could go either way, but you're starting Schultz. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as far as Minnesota goes, we've got Kirk Cousins, remains consistent, should be a solid play this week. Just on volume, he's probably going to throw a couple touchdown passes to Adam Thielen because he does it every week. Justin Jefferson is also going to be another start. But remember, this is a solid Dallas defense. So their ceilings are a little bit lower than you probably want them to be this week, but they're still starts.
Mm-hmm.
That said, Minnesota's going to have to rely on Dalvin Cook a ton. I love his upside after the week off. Hopefully he's healthy and fresh and ready to go. And when he's healthy, we know he's a beast, and the defensive matchup doesn't matter. Dalvin Cook will get his. So he's a smash start for me this week.
Yeah. 1,000%.
Yep. And this is a good week to bench Tyler Conklin. He's not going to see much volume at all in this matchup. Yeah.
I agree. Okay. Are we on our last matchup?
We're on our last matchup, folks.
Okay. Giants, Kansas City. Why don't you go ahead and start with Kansas City?
Okay. So Kansas City has become a defense that you want to exploit in fantasy. I am starting Daniel Jones this week. 100%. We saw Ryan Tannehill have a get right game last week. And I think that this is a week where Daniel Jones really shows us what he can do against a very, very bad defense. Saquon Barkley is unlikely to play this week. So this is the week to fire up Devontae Booker. He has a higher ceiling against his defense than he'll have the rest of the season when he plays. The only relevant wide receiver not on the injury report for the Giants this week is Darius Slayton. Given this is a Monday night game, I'm probably staying away from Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay, and Sterling Shepard. I'll start Slayton because he should see volume, but the person I really like to pick up that increase in volume is Evan Ingram. I also like him for at least a touchdown this week because he's still getting the red zone work. Even though the drops are a bit of a concern, they don't have a lot of other options. So I'd fire Evan Ingram up.
Okay. Well, I thought you were going to talk about Kansas City, but I'll go ahead and do that. Good Lord. How bad did Mahomes look last week? Absolutely terrible, out of character for him. I do not know what's happening over there in Kansas City. He's still going to be a start for you this week. This is not the week to bench him. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, obviously starting. Mecole Hardman hasn't been what we wanted him to be, so I would sit him this week and look at him to be a potential drop as the weeks go on. We'll see, though. I mean, Kansas City has to shake something up. They've got to do something different. And then the only other person to talk about, I guess, would be Josh Gordon, but there's nothing to say about him because you're sitting him because it's Josh Gordon.
Yep.
Okay, did we do it?
We did it.
We did it.
Technically 32 minutes of actual football content because it took us about 2 minutes to get started. So good for us.
Good for us.
I'd like to thank everybody who jumped in on the YouTube chat. Dynasty Pylon saying start everyone against Kansas City. Could not agree more. And every week, the Kansas City defense just seems to plummet. They're getting worse every week. Yep. Yes, Dan Turner, we are live. Hello. Thanks for tuning in. Sit Carson Wentz forever. I disagree with that, but this week I do agree with sitting him as we talked about. And Dan, thank you. We appreciate it. We feel pretty wonderful. And our own Mr. Dave Cruz jumping in to say you guys rock. Thank you, Dave. We appreciate you and your waiver wire show, giving people everything they need to know to get their lineups right earlier in the week. And folks, I do believe that is it for us. Let's roll it out here. So make sure you are following us on Twitter at 32 and 32FF. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at 32 and 32FF. Make sure you're liking and subscribing here on YouTube so you don't miss our weekly show, in addition to David Cruz Waiver Wire show that comes out every Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Good luck this week. And if you missed it, or if you want to listen again, make sure to find us on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe. You'll get notifications for our show. That should be out at some point, either this afternoon or tomorrow, guys. All right. Adios.
See ya.